Hello again, Ian from HiTech Legion here, and I've got something on my mind, cases. Case in point, this Cougar MX300 mid-size case. So feel free to stick around as I'll be doing an overview of the case by itself as well as a look at it with the system inside. So here she is, the Cougar MX300. First things first, let's take a look at what came inside the chassis. So we've got a bag of screws. It contains some thumb screws, the motherboard standoff screws, and basic power supply and mainboard screws. We've got a 3.5-inch adapter for hard disks, solid-state drives. We've got a 3.5-inch cover for the front panel. We've got an additional slot cover for the PCI slots in the back. And some good old zip ties for cable management. So taking a look at the side panel here, we've got room for 220mm case fans to suck air in and cool the graphics cards. And a little window in case you want to show off your system. We'll just take the side panel off. As you can see, it slides right out. So after opening the side panel, the first thing that I notice right off the bat is the toolless, screwless devices for the 5 1/4-inch bays. All you have to do is twist these things and put your bay and then put them back in and twist again. Good to go. You can even move them around. There's a few different holes for them. And we've got room for 3 5 1/4-inch. We've got some 2.5-inch hard drive bays for solid states. And then we've got some 3.5-inch, which actually hold regular hard disks or solid states with adapters. Now all the hard disk bays do have the toolless slots as well. You can see these things slide right out with just a little squeeze. So I'm going to go ahead and flip this around and we'll take off the back panel as well. But first, here's a look at it without the back panel from the side panel view. So looking at the back panel, you can see there's about 1/2 inch maybe of space right here for your cables. And you can see right here they've actually zip tied these down, which come from the front. So right here there's not quite enough room for anything super thick. I mean, I can't quite get my pinky under there, but I'm sure you could get a few smaller cables around. We'll just have to see when we put the system in exactly how well it's managed cables. So let's take a look at the back here. So looking at the back, we've got the Cougar exhaust fan here in the back. We've got a couple of ports for water cooling tubing. We've got 7 PCIe slots and this neat little cover for them, which pops right out. Room for the power supply down here. Let's go ahead and take a look at the top down. Here it is with the top on. And let's take this off. Just pops right off. It's got a nice little honeycomb at the top for exhaust. Now this is pretty neat right here. The fan filter for the fans at the top is actually magnetic, which means it comes off and on quite easily. I mean, you could just take this thing off and probably throw it in your dishwasher without soap, obviously. Get it nice and clean in no time flat. You've got room for 2 more case fans at the top here to exhaust up. So let's take a look at that front panel now. As you can see, the front panel also uses the honeycomb and mesh design here. On the front, you've got the power button, a reset switch, a USB 3.0 port, a USB 2.0 port, and a high definition audio and microphone port. I'll just take this front panel off real quick. So I've popped the front panel off. Let's just move this over to the side. As you can see, it's got room for 2 more fans here to cool the hard disks. And some more mesh filtering, which pops right off. And again, it's all plastic, so it would work well just being thrown into a dishwasher or given a quick rinse. So, taking a look behind the front panel, you can see that behind the honeycomb mesh is actually some foam that would be pretty easily removable and cleaned as well. Keeps most of the dust out. And here's 2 of the 5 1/4 inch bays, and these things just pop right out with these clips here on the side. There we go. Just a little close-up of it. Looks like I was wrong in my initial assessment. There's only 2 5 1/4 inch bays. This top one is not removable as it would interfere with this little daughter board there. So before we put a system in this, I'll give you a quick look at the bottom of it as well. So taking a look at the bottom here, we've got your standard power supply mesh filter. And this is all plastic as well. Easily cleanable, slides right in and out, no problem. And the feet are actually hard plastic, which makes it easier to slide around on hardwood floors, so that can be a pro or a con for you, depending on what you're doing and how much you have to move the case. Let's go ahead and put a system in this MX300, and I'll let you know how it went and if I had any issues. So, here's the Cougar MX300 fully loaded with a system inside. You can kind of see through the side panel there all the components. Let's go ahead and take this off and let you take a closer look. So the first thing you'll probably notice is the graphics card in here. Now it's kind of a long graphics card, but there were some really smart decisions made by Cougar when they designed this product. You'll notice that they put the solid-state drive in the middle where you're going to more likely have your graphics cards. So you've got a little bit of extra room for the connectors there. One thing I'd like to point out that I failed to notice before I started building it were these hard disk trays. They look fairly typical, but they extend open so you can put the hard disk inside and close it shut, slide it right back in. There's even little screw pins here to slide into any spots. So that's how I got that one in there. The solid-state drive trays do not have the same functionality, but solid-state drives just slide right in anyways. So I've got a decent-sized heatsink for my CPU here, but I've still got a fair amount of room, as you can tell since I slid the panel off, between the panel and the CPU cooler. Another thing you'll notice is that you won't see a lot of my power cabling, as the cable management features allow you to slide it right through the back, and there's also a little corridor there that you can use to guide your cables. Let's flip this thing around and I'll show you exactly where all my cabling went. So here's a decent picture of the other side panel. As you can see, most of my cabling comes out through the bottom here where the power supply is, and I just kind of have it either through the cable guide going up or wherever it needs to be. And I actually use some of these empty bay slots to put some of the excess cabling, as I don't have a modular power supply. It actually fits fairly nicely right there. I mean, I think I could still do this even if I had 1 or 2 solid-state drives in there. Now, as you can see from the hard drive, you can actually put them in reverse so that the cabling is in the back and is out of view, which really helps tidy things up. So here's a look at the case with both side panels removed. You can actually see most of the cabling now here in the rear. So here's another view of the Cougar MX300 with both side panels removed. You can actually see most of my cabling here through it now. And this was all done without using any of the included zip ties, so I'm sure that we could tidy this up even further if we needed to. I will say I wasn't able to get this 8-pin to my motherboard without going across the graphics card. It just wasn't quite long enough, but that's really more to do with the power supply than anything. Here's a quick look at the back with everything installed. You can see my graphics card right here taking up 2 slots. This little guy protecting where the screws come in makes it very easy to remove. And I put the excess slot in the top. So now that you've had a look at the Cougar MX with the system in it, let me tell you a little bit about my experience building it. Everything went in fairly simply, fairly easy. I mean, there's always a couple of parts that are tough to pull off or push in, but I mean, for the most part, everything was fine, nothing broke. I will say that when I installed the motherboard, there's already pre-raised areas for you to screw into, which made installing it a little bit quicker. Power supply fit right in. Thanks to, like I said, the smart decision making of giving a little extra space there, the graphics card went in just beautifully. The toolless hard drive bays made installing the hard drive just a breeze. And again, I'll mention, thanks to the smart decision making, I mean, everything went in probably a little quicker than it should have. Just very simple. So I went ahead and did some benchmarking on the Cougar MX300, tested some idle and low temperatures. Let's take a look at that now. So, after taking a look at the benchmarking, everything seemed normal. Nothing got too hot, nothing got too cold. The Cougar MX300 actually has pretty decent airflow for the one stock fan that it comes with, and you can add up to 6 additional fans to really increase the amount of airflow you get through it. Now, I feel like I might be repeating myself, so I'll only mention this one more time, but smart decision making is very important when designing a case. You really need to provide ample room for cabling, and especially in a mid-sized tower, you need to provide ample room for a graphics card, because they seem to just be getting longer and longer. And Cougar really thought it out when they were designing this. The inclusion of the toolless bays for hard drives, solid-state drives, and 5 1/4-inch drives was also pretty smart and made installing those a breeze. If I had to pick one pet peeve with the case, I'd probably say it was the hard plastic feet, because I would just prefer some rubber ones. So for these reasons, I've decided to give the Cougar MX300 the HiTech Legion Gold Award. Now, if you'd like to read the full review, be sure to check it out on www.hitechlegion.com. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and follow us on Twitter. And remember, if you're not high-tech, you're dead.